Welcome back to Questing Beast. I'm Ben. Today we're taking a look at the Undying Sands. This is a very unusual product. Is it an RPG? Is it a board game? Is it a mix of the two? Let's find out. This episode is sponsored by Into the AM and their line of fantasy, sci-fi, and horror themed t-shirts. This shirt of a cosmic space owl reminds me a lot of the Labyrinth movie and would be perfect if you were running that role-playing game. They've sent me a wide assortment of sample t-shirts, and I've always been impressed by the comfort and print quality. Random strangers have walked up to me and complimented me on how good they look. Right now, they have a deal going on where for $60 you can get a bundle of 3 t-shirts, and then by using my link in the description below, you can get an additional 10% off. Thanks again to Into the AM for sponsoring this episode, and now let's get back to the show. So what we're going to do here is take a look through all of these materials. There's a number of different things here. First of all, we have these sheets full of hexes because this is a kind of hexcrawl. So you actually can punch these out and then you'll be able to create your own hexcrawl just by moving the little pieces around. I guess we wouldn't really need this labeled one right here, but a lot of the ones on the back, as you can see, actually have numbers on them, which are going to correspond to particular locations. Stuck together pretty good, but they do come apart without ripping, so that's good. We have, some of them are just plain sand, but the ones that are not sand are actually have 3 different locations on each of them. So for example, this one is a kind of floating city and a rock and then an obelisk. And then I think how the way the game works is that as you play, you're going to be laying out these hexes one at a time. So you're going to be exploring them in real time and pulling them out of the bag because it comes with a bag that you can store all the hexes in. This makes it a lot like a board game in a lot of respects. So it's taking that aspect of old school RPGs and systematizing it, which I think is pretty neat. We have a couple of locations here like this city and these pyramids, which are actually much more fleshed out than the other ones in that they have a whole map that you can explore that you can zoom in on. And I'll show you that in just a second. The artwork is really fun. It's a little bit cartoony. It reminds me a bit of the work of, oh man, I'm blanking out on his name now. He did the new map of Hot Springs Island for the Hot Springs Island system. And I think he did the picture of Hot Springs Island City in that book as well. Here's a zoomed in picture of the city itself if you want to explore that, and a map of the pyramids as well. The actual tile of the pyramids doesn't show all of this, but once you get there, then you can use this map to explain to them what's going on and where they are as they explore further. We have a huge DM screen right here. I'll see if I can fold this out so you can see it a bit better. So there's 3 panels. Let's look at this one panel at a time. How about? There we go. So first of all, what is this? It's a minimalistic system agnostic RPG setting. How do you use it? You place all the hexes in the bag, remove a single hex at random and place it on the table. As they explore, you just pull out more of them. The players decide where they're going to go next, whether to an old hex or to a brand new one. Once you run out of hexes in the bag, then you're able to leave the Undying Sands. A little bit of advice right here. It's system agnostic, so you can slap whatever D&D system or RPG system onto this that you want. It does seem to suggest 5th edition because it mentions things like advantage and disadvantage, but those can be interpreted in different ways depending on the system. Some rumors that you can roll on here if you want to loot the body, some treasure, just some random tables to help flesh things out as players move around and do stuff. Encounters in the sands, a D20 table. Again, no stats for these. You're going to have to figure that out on your own based on your system. Most of the stuff like vultures or hydras or tyrant gators are things that are similar enough to stuff in traditional games that you should probably be able to find something in your bestiary that's going to match that. Some other stuff, maybe not so much. Some dangers you might run into and curses. Over here, we have the actual locations. As I mentioned, some of these hexes have numbers on the back. So like hex 13, that's the Forgotten Pyramids. You would go over here and you actually have a map with information about each of the locations as they explore. Some of them are much simpler. So for example, this one, hex 11, would be this one over here where there's 3 locations. So all the other ones have 3 different locations on there. So when they wander into this hex, you can say, do you want to go to the altar of profane rites or the Tomb of the Ancient Royalty, or the Steaming Oasis. And then there's a 1-sentence description. You'll have to riff off of that to provide a little bit more information, or perhaps roll on some of these tables over here. Our last page over here is the Great Sand City, which is location number 14. We saw that bigger map that you can give to the players, which is what I would do so they can wander around and try and find stuff. And there's some more stuff to flesh it out here, like the shops, wish to do a little job for, and there's different people you can do jobs for them, some factions there. And then on the back of this, we actually have a DM screen. So it looks like that with a big sandstorm rolling in and some people watching the sandstorm approach. So you can set up this DM screen, maybe keep all the hexes behind it in like your little bag, and then run the game right off the screen, which I really like. So, I mean, that's it for the Undying Sands. It's a fun little system. If you want to have exploration in a desert setting, you could just pull this out, slap it down on the table, and be pretty much good to go, as long as you're comfortable with creating monster stats on the fly. This would work well for OSR systems, because in the OSR, most monsters are just like hit dice, armor class, and maybe an attack, which usually you can just make up on the fly. But you might need to do a little bit of prep to prepare those ahead of time if you're not as comfortable with that. Anyway, I'll put links down in the description below for where you can check this out for yourself if you want to buy a copy, and thank you for watching. See you guys next time.